Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we would kindly ask if everyone would please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Thank you.
שביתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד, כי מימיני בא למות. לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי, אך בשרי ישכון לבטח, כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול, לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת. תודיעני אורח חיים חיים, שבעת שמחות פתע פניך נעימות, במנחה נצח.
Dear Trudy and Sherry and Jonathan and Kim and Marley, Matthew and Fanny, Shai and Liz, and Ryan and Jack, and Ben and Haz, and Reuben and Micah, and everyone here. Colleagues, family, friends, patients, neighbors. Perhaps the most comforting words from our tradition are the words of the 23rd Psalm. And we have been reciting these words at times such as this for nearly 2,500 years. And each time we offer them, it is with the hope that at least for a few moments, we will feel a sense of God's presence and a measure of comfort in the face of our loss. So I offer them to you in the most familiar translation, and again with the hope that as you hear them, you will remember our community's, the world's dear Stan, dear Dr. Stanley Altschuler. You'll remember him and for a few moments feel a sense of comfort and embrace still in his presence. Mizmor LeDavid. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Take a look around you. Look in the first row. Look in the second row. Look in the third row. You are the evidence. And all of you here, and the countless patients whose lives he saved, the countless colleagues and friends in the healing profession. Just take a look around. You are the reason his cup runneth over. And with what? With love. His cup runneth over with your love and his love for you and everything you were able to give and to do for him and everything he wished to give and do and offer you and the world. And the world mourns a healer such as this. I am privileged to welcome before us the members of his family, members of his staff, and dear friends who wish to speak this morning. In each of them, in each of their words, you will no doubt hear the love and respect that Stan deserved and received his entire life. So, first, it is with great honor that I call upon you, Jonathan, and Kim, and Ryan and Jack will accompany you, then Matthew, then Shai and Liz, then Reuben, then Micah, then dear friend and colleague in the office, his office manager, Laurie Corso, then his nurse, Sheila Jackson, and then his beloved, Trudy.
I thought I'd open my remarks today by sharing a story that I think illustrates the kind of man that my dad was. As most of you know, he was a doctor. I think you all know that. He was a pulmonologist. And one of the most common procedures that he would perform on patients was something called a bronchoscopy. It's a procedure for him to be able to visualize a patient's lungs. And it's a procedure where he would take a tube and he would pass it through a patient's nose or down their throat all the way into the lungs. And the patient was awake for the procedure. You would not be put under anesthesia. And he was telling me one day about a patient of his who was in the office for a bronchoscopy. The patient was clearly apprehensive and was scared. And he said, "Doctor, I have to ask you a question. Is this going to hurt? I need to know." And my dad looked at him with reassuring eyes and his calm, soothing voice. And he said, I appreciate your question. Many patients don't even think to ask, so I thank you for asking. But more to the point, let me answer your question for you. He said, I've performed literally thousands, probably tens of thousands of these procedures, and I can assure you it does not hurt a bit. In fact, there's only one time in my entire career that I felt the slightest bit of discomfort, but it was only because I bent too far. And while I thank you for your kind consideration of my comfort, you should be much more concerned about yourself. You're about to go through hell. Of course, he was kidding, but he believed that laughter was the best medicine. And he was never without a fresh joke to tell, whether to his patients or his colleagues or his friends. His quick wit was always timely, was always topical, and was never mean-spirited. You all know that. There's some things you may not know about my dad. He loved technology and gadgets. He's actually the first person I knew who had a pager and a car phone and a VCR. It was a Betamax. He even had a TV in the 1980s that used the remote control he could use to make phone calls. I think we successfully placed one. And he loved fast cars. He was also a man who derived immense pleasure from the simpler things in life, the unplugged, if you will. The changing leaves in the fall, a shooting star in the summer. He loved looking at rare birds. And in particular, he had a passion for eagles and Phillies and Flyers and Sixers. And when I was away at school or if I was busy at work, I always counted on my dad to fill me in. And the latest happenings in the world of Philadelphia sports. I didn't need to listen to Howard Eskin or Ray Didinger because I could ask my dad. I'm going to miss your daily discussions about sports, his eternal optimism as a sports fan, and his encyclopedic knowledge of the topic. He loved to travel and explore new places and cultures. He took Marley and I on many adventures, including luau's in Hawaii and horseback riding on a dude ranch in Arizona. I missed out on his adventures with Marley to Australia and Kazakhstan, among others. But he loved to travel. He was a legendary eater with an uncanny ability to identify the single best item on any menu. And he was secretly a wonderful chef. He used that old Betamax of his to catalog every single episode of Yan Can Cook. It was a Chinese cooking show that aired on PBS. But his greatest joy in life was his family. He was lucky enough to have had two great loves in his life. In Act 1, he was a loving husband and father to my mother, my sister, and me. In Act 2, he welcomed Trudy, Shai, and Matthew into his arms and in his heart. And he loved his daughters-in-law, Kim, Liz, and Fanny. But little did we know that he would only later find his truest love in life. His grandchildren. Mine and Jack. Reuben and Micah. Benjamin and Hazel. The six of you were his pride and joy, and his love for you and your love for him sustained him through his darkest days. And nothing made him happier than witnessing your academic and athletic achievements. Y'all made him so proud. I want to leave you with a note from Uncle Leonard, my mother's brother, that really, to me, speaks to who my dad was. Leonard wrote, I enjoyed knowing your dad for many years. Going back to before I became a teenager, he was my favorite person back then to hold discussions with about the Phillies and the Eagles. And he took me to the first Eagles game I had ever attended back when they played at Franklin Field. He also stimulated my interest in healthcare and even served for a while as my family physician. It's not surprising my Uncle Len recently retired from a long career in healthcare and remains a diehard fan of Philadelphia sports. My father was that rare soul who left everyone better than he found them. Dad, you were my hero, and I love you.
So both of us have so many reasons we love Poppy and so many great memories we shared with him over the years, and here are some of our favorites. So one of my favorite memories is whenever we would go over to the house in Cherry Hill when we were little, and we'd have a family dinner, we would always go out and compete in the backyard with either playing baseball or wiffle ball or soccer or some other game. And somehow, when we played wiffle ball or baseball, no matter how hard my hit was, no matter where it ended up, it always seemed to end up as a home run, with Poppy chasing me right up to the plate, but always just barely missing. And to return this favor, I was nice enough to never let him make it to first base. Let him relax a little bit. A second memory is all the times he picked me up from school and we would spend time together on my half days or other days. And one special time I remember is going to the Penn Museum with him in West Philly and going to the Chipotle nearby. And although I found some of the exhibits somewhat boring, I still had a great time hanging out with him, and especially when we got the Chipotle. I'm so lucky to have had my Poppy in my life for 16 years, and I will always miss his jokes and how special I always felt with him.
I was so lucky to have spent so much time with my Poppy. I especially remember the adventures we had in Florida. My favorite memory is when we went to visit him in Florida in December 2019. It was just me, my mom, and Poppy, and we spent the whole trip having fun doing all the things I love, from ice cream sundaes at Jackson's to playing miniature golf to having hibachi and playing pinball. Poppy went on all the adventures with me and even pretended I didn't tire him out. Poppy also taught me how to play chess and gin rame. He was so good, and I wish I had more time to learn from him. But what I loved most about Poppy was his sense of humor. I learned so many great jokes from him. We would often go back and forth telling jokes. One time I told him a roof joke, but it was over his head.
Over the years, the two of us have had so many great memories and learned so many important life skills and jokes from Poppy. However, the two most important things we think we learned from him was he always knew the best thing to order at a restaurant.
And it's okay to have a milkshake for dinner.
Matthew? I thought you'd bring the company up with you.
Moral support. Stan and Trudy, Poppy and Grammy, truly two peas in a pod. Their life revolved around family and travel. My mother Trudy always said to me, Stan is your biggest fan. It was true. He always had my back. He would show up to my high school soccer games, coming from Frankfurt or Nazareth Hospital, or his office on Roosevelt Boulevard, even though he worked all the time, weekends, most holidays. That was Stan's nature. He was the most considerate and compassionate person I've known. Always on his way to help someone, standing by a friend's side during surgery, or attending a funeral of his patient who didn't have a support system like his. Stan connected with people from all walks of life. His subtle wit and delivery always brought a tangible warmth to his encounters. He would indulge my dark humor. Just last week, I said he was going to be part of the graduating class along with Pele. To which he smirked and immediately recalled his last trip to Brazil, walking through the same stadium tunnel as Pele. Stan's mind was sharp right to the end. We were able to watch the Rose Bowl together, where he was casually dropping stats on Penn State wide receivers. I'm grateful he shared his love of Philadelphia sports with me. I'll always cherish the hockey games, the Flyers and the Phantoms at the Spectrum. And I'm thankful for the years of happiness and joy he brought into our family, the consummate partner to my mother, and trusted advisor and friend to my sister and I. I know you would give me a smirk today if I told you I'm 2 for 2 at Platinum.
I'm going to be the only one not talking about sports. As I sat down to write this eulogy for my stepfather, who I like to call Pops, which then later changed to Poppy once the grandchildren started coming along. The words are not particularly forthcoming. This is highly, highly unusual for me, and therefore a strange feeling. I suppose Stan has left a deep impression on me as I have learned how to better listen and hold back. From him. But one should never be confused by Stan's quiet. He had plenty to say. He just was smart about when and what to share. I'm going to try and do the same in honoring his memory today. I have so many fun and ridiculous and blasé and loving memories of Stan as a parent, as a friend, as a father-in-law, as a confidant, as a co-conspirator, and much more. Here are some highlights of my relationship with him and what he meant to me and my family. There's 5. Number 1, change via orange chicken. My first fight with Stan was over orange chicken. We had just met, and we went out for Chinese food for dinner. I was about 15. My brother and I always got the same thing our entire life when going out for Chinese, literally. We never even looked at the menu. Stan made us look at the menu, but then ordered us orange chicken. I was pissed, and I decided he was my nemesis. That lasted about 20 minutes. I'm terrible at staying angry with people, but also the orange chicken wasn't too bad, and Stan actually was really nice. And really, I knew it wasn't unreasonable to try something new, but that Stan just wasn't my dad. I resolved to go along with change, although I never had the orange chicken again. Strangely, my oldest child, Ruben's favorite Chinese dish is orange chicken, so now we order it a lot. I still don't really like it, though. Number 2, nighttime philosopher. I used to have a snack before going to bed most nights in high school with Stan, where we would discuss space, physics, astronomy, philosophy. He would indulge every question and thought I had while I sat on the kitchen counter, sorry, Mom, eating a piece of rye toast and cream cheese. His nurturing of my inquisitiveness was validating, and our connection on these shared interests only grew as I got older. Over the years, we exchanged great book gifts with one another, especially around issues of environmental degradation and potential solutions to address it. Or as the years in technology changed, audiobooks and podcast suggestions. To this day, I often think of him whenever I eat rye toast and cream cheese. Number 3, humor. Stan was really, really funny. My favorite part of any visit to my parents and what I looked forward to was always his funny reactions to anything said. For a while, there were the doctor's jokes, the ones that would pass around the hospital and that he'd bring back to us all. It was always part of the exciting repertoire of our dinner conversations. But after retirement, his humor and sarcasm got even better. I love to laugh, and Stan made me do it all the time. As an example of how amazing a part of him this was, his humor was still with him all the way up until the day before he passed, meaning that no matter what the challenge or difficult situation he was in, physically or emotionally, he maintained his funny bone. My stepbrother, John, has one too, so I'll now have to look to him for this, I suppose. Number 4. Father-in-law. Stan was always so great, open and warm, and respectful with all my friends and girlfriends over the years. Generally speaking, all my hippie and punk comrades never really fazed him. He tried to understand it all given his less extensive deviance from mainstream culture. He once asked me, "Why do you and your friends all look the same?" And by look, he was referring to what was, on that day, my blue hair, many multiples of ear and body piercings, and my friends' extensive tattoos and etc. To which I replied, "Well, I think we all think we look unique and different from each other, but we think you and your friends all look the same." He responded, "Okay." Now you all who know him know exactly that. Okay. Eventually, when I married, he was a really wonderful father-in-law. My sisters-in-law, Fanny and Kim, I know can attest to this as well. With Liz, Stan and she shared a love of birds and birding, and in general enjoyed a very sweet and easy relationship that made me very happy. Liz always ordered whatever Stan ordered when we went out to eat, and they were both always happy with their food. I, on the other hand, often experimented with something new and did not necessarily. He was also a fantastic role model for Reuben and Micah as a professional, a kind and gentle man, a husband, and a caring, loving, and responsible grandfather. The kids both loved him from first sight, and as a baby and toddler, when Poppy was around, no one else could hold Micah. Micah absolutely loved being held by him and sitting in Poppy's lap. Lastly, number 5, advice and inspiration. My stepfather was a great listener and thinking partner, and I often went to him for advice and to review different life moves and decisions. He was smart and thoughtful. The last thing I went to him on, very recently, was my most recent and culminating work pursuit that I'm striving to create, a new national nonprofit initiative. I explained it in detail and fielded some questions from him, and ultimately I asked him, "So Alto, what do you think? Do you think it's a go?" He said he thought it was a great idea and that he hoped it worked out for me. I take that to heart, but I will admit my sadness was present in not having him around to share this work with him as I take steps to bring it to a reality. He has been nothing but supportive through my professional development and career. And for that, I am exceedingly glad and lucky to have had him in my corner as a cheerleader. He was there for every big moment for me, every graduation, of which there were many, and all the ups and downs with work, career, transitions, and balancing life, which I still don't have down pat. But I learned from him that it's not all work. It's also play, and his travels around the world have inspired Liz and I to prioritize and plan our own adventurous excursions, both individually, like he always did, and as a couple, and of course as a family. I only wish our next trip to Reykjavik and around Iceland we could giddily share with him in our planning excitement like we would, and upon our return, our pictures and stories, as we would typically do. I even still feel like I'll still be compelled to buy him his requisite travel place named baseball cap. He always wore the ones we brought back for him. My stepfather was wonderful, and my emotional exhaustion over his loss frankly doesn't lend itself right now to any amazing writing thoughts or expressions of just how great he was, or what a perfect balance for our family he was, and how incredibly sorely he will forever be missed. So I hope it will suffice just by me standing up here and saying, believe me, he was the best. He tipped the scales back into alignment and gave of himself to all of us as much as he possibly could. He was so considerate and conscientious of my brother, mother, and I losing my father and the role he played coming into our family. He was generous in helping with any health questions as our private, always-on-call physician dad, and we were lucky to have Marley and John and Sherry brought into our lives with him, and thankfully, too, later Kim, Ryan, and Jack, who have become thicker than thieves with Reuben and Micah. Only wish we had more time with him, but I'm so incredibly thankful for what we got. Thank you so much, Stan, for everything.
Stan was many things. He was a grandfather, father, doctor, and husband. But most importantly, he was my poppy. Throughout my life, he did lots for me. We had fun together, we played games, we learned.
Try my best, because I know Reuben wants to say this. Poppy and Reuben played games like chess and cards together and did a lot of puzzles.
Papa was really good at chess, and he constantly beat me at it. No matter how good I got, he was always better, but that pushed me to get even better. We also played different variations of chess, including Chinese checkers, which he still destroyed me at, but I always had a really good time. A lot of times when we would go to Florida, on the dining room table, we would all do a big puzzle together. We completed one, I think, but a lot of them just took too much time and we were too busy, like, hanging out. He was such a nice person and did so much for the world that impacted many people's lives. I probably don't know where I would be without him, since he's played such an important role in my life. I'm just glad that it's such a long and happy life, and that I got to spend so much time with him.
I agree with everything that Ruben said. But also I'd just like to add that I think everyone liked him because though they might not have liked everything about him, there was definitely at least one thing they liked about him, especially his humor. I think everyone liked. But yeah, I just think that Ruben really said everything I wanted to say.
Lori?
Well, that's a tough act to follow. Good morning. First, I want to extend my deepest sympathy to Trudy and all of Dr. A's family. He loved each and every one of you, and you all gave him his greatest joy and happiness. He loved you all very much. My name is Lori, and I met Dr. Altschuler 35 years ago. I was hired as a secretary for his pulmonary practice and went on to become his office manager. Dr. A, that is how he was affectionately addressed by everyone, was one of the kindest men I've ever met. He was loved by his patients for his gentle, compassionate care, for sharing a joke or two, and for making them feel like they were his only patient. He generously went out of his way to donate medical equipment to foreign countries in need and help thousands of workers who are exposed to the asbestos toxin. Dr. A taught me a lot through the years. We weathered a lot of storms, both professionally and personally. We couldn't be any more different, yet we shared a bond that will always make me smile when I think of him. His patience is a tribute I greatly admire, and maybe someday I'll master that quality. I got to spend some time with Dr. A these past 6 weeks or so, and was amazed at his resilience and strength. Even as he got weaker, he still had his meticulous way of getting things organized. Nothing was left unfinished. We will all miss you. We love you. I will miss my Dr. A.
Sheila?
Good morning, Rabbi Cantor, Marlene Tainzer, family and friends. Excuse me. My name is Sheila Jackson, and I was Dr. Stanley Stan's private duty nurse, his caregiver during the most difficult time in his lifetime. I have a poem I'd like to read. I am a writer, but I chose this one from, it's called Scrapbook. It's called Scrapbook. It is in memory of Dr. Stanley Altschuler, MD. When tomorrow starts without me, and I'm not there to see, if the sun should rise and find your eyes all filled with tears for me, I wish so much you wouldn't cry the way you did today, while thinking of the many things we didn't get to say. I know how much you love me, as much as I love you. And each time you think of me, I know you'll miss me too. But when tomorrow starts without me, please try to understand that an angel came and called my name and took me by the hand and said, my place was ready in heaven far above, and I'd have to leave behind all those I dearly love. As I turned and walked away, a tear fell from my eye. For all my life, I'd always thought I didn't want to die. I had so much to live for, so much yet to do. It seemed almost impossible that I was leaving you. I thought of all the yesterdays, the good and the bad. I thought of all the love we shared and all the fun we had. If I could relive yesterday, just even for a while, I'd say goodbye and kiss you all and maybe see you smile. But then I fully realized that could never be, for emptiness and mourners would take the place of me. When I walked through heaven's gates, I felt so much at home. God looked down and smiled at me from his golden throne. He said, this is eternity and all I've promised you. Life on earth is past, but here it starts anew. So when tomorrow starts without me, don't think we're apart. For every time you think of me, I'm right here in your heart. While someday you've passed to this world bright as sun, I'll be waiting with open arms. We'll be there together, always as one. Lovingly your nurse, Sheila Jackson.
Trudy?
At the time I met Stan, it was 1992, and he was training for the Broad Street Run. I am not an athletic person, so I had nothing really in common with this nice gentleman. He would take me as he practiced and explain to me that runners get black and blue toenails, and their toenails fall off. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about this. Had my friend Eugene Mayer, Dr. Eugene Mayer, not given me his recommendation about Stan, I don't know if we ever would have met. He knew Stan from med school at Temple while Stan was doing a fellowship in pulmonology. He told me that Stan's personality was very much like Ben's, my former husband, who passed away at age 46, and he was a very calming presence, which I certainly needed in my life. And there was only one difference. He had a lot less hair. When we married in 1994, we both came with a lot of baggage. My children at that time, Matthew was 12, and Jess Shy was 15. Matthew only liked Stan at the time because he had a sports car. Stan always had 2 cars. Jess Shy liked him because he was smart and calm. I had very high standards, both from my father and my first husband. My parents always said to me, you can change someone's image, you can change someone's career, but you cannot change someone's character. Stan was the gold standard. He was an amazing husband who always allowed me the freedom to pursue whatever I wanted. He was confident in himself. He was a good friend. He was a beautiful soul, quietly peaceful, and yet so strong. Simply put, he was a mensch. He lived a life worthwhile. Over the last 2 years, he loved the fact that our family had expanded to have 6 grandchildren, and the youngest of 2, Hazel, is my only granddaughter. He gave of himself for humanitarian help with a medical organization called CareLift, where he went to third world countries to bring medical supplies and equipment and to assess their needs. He was a wonderful father to all the children because he always listened, and he never raised his voice or got mad at the kids. He left all the discipline of my 2 children to me. I will miss him because my world was so enriched and broadened by him. May he rest in peace.
Recently, Stan and Trudy and I had lunch. It was a lengthy lunch. And we spoke about things we liked and we shared. We spoke about life. Spoke a little bit about the stock market and a little bit about sports cars and a little bit about life and a little bit about death. And as I listened closely to this gentle and humble and brilliant individual, I thought to myself, as close as I have ever come to a heroic figure in Jewish history, this is it. That figure is Moses Maimonides, often known most appropriately for his brilliant biblical and Talmudic mind. But he was also a great physician, perhaps the greatest physician of the Middle Ages. I'd like to share with you what he wrote at the end of the 12th century. For himself, but no doubt for Stan. Inspire me with love for my art and for your creatures. Do not allow thirst for profit, ambition, for renown and admiration to interfere with my profession. I'm almost finished. Let me be contented in everything except in the great science of my profession. Never allow the thought to arise in me that I have attained to sufficient knowledge. Don't take him out. Don't take him out. We should all be so lucky to have a little one express him or herself at our funerals. He must be here. Never allow me the thought to arise in me that I have attained to sufficient knowledge. And you know Stan was brilliant and ever exploring and ever seeking. But vouchsafe to me the strength, the leisure, and the ambition ever to extend my knowledge, for art is great, but the mind of an individual is ever expanding. Last phrase. Almighty God, thou hast chosen me in thy mercy to watch over the life and death of thy creatures. I now apply myself to my profession. Support me in this great task, so that I may be a benefit to humankind. That I may be a benefit to humankind. And you are the greatest beneficiaries. You derived the greatest benefit. And every life he saved, and every life he touched, derived the greatest benefit from this gentle, humble, brilliant man. May his soul rest in peace, his memory assured, and his legacy of love and caring and the ability to blend you as a family, to blend his patients, his colleagues, his staff, his world into his family. Because he treated all of us like a loving spouse, a loving father, and a loving grandfather. Amen. We rise for the El Mole Rachamim.
שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה. יהים קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירין את נשמת שמריהו בן משה ומרים, שחולק לעולמו בעל הרחמים, יסתירכו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור ביצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen.
God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest unto the soul of Shmaryahu ben Moshe Miriam, Stanley, the son of Max and Mary. For he has departed from this world. Lord of mercy, bring him into thy presence, and may his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou his possession, and may his repose be peace, peace eternal. Amen. Interment services will continue at Crescent Memorial Park, and Shiva will be observed at the late residence, 26 Ravenna Drive in West Berlin. Today, following the burial, and Wednesday, 2 to 4, then 6 to 8 p.m. And then on Thursday, at Congregation Road of Shalom in Philadelphia, between 6 and 8 p.m. And our service here is concluded. Please be seated. Mm-hmm. You go with me to the cemetery?
No. Just down. Are you going down?
No.
We can rise once more, please.